it is my honor and pleasure to welcome to our Bima this morning Rabbi Dr. Bradley Shavit Artson. He holds the Abner and Rosalind Goldstein Dean's Chair of the Ziegler School of Rabbinic Studies and is Vice President of American Jewish University. Rabbi Artson has long been a passionate advocate for social justice, human dignity, diversity, and inclusion. A member of the philosophy department, he is particularly interested in theology, ethics, and the integration of science and religion. He mentors Camp Ramah in California in Ojai and Ramah of Northern California in the Bay Area. He's also dean of the Zacharias Frankel College in Germany, ordaining conservative rabbis for Europe. A frequent contributor for the Huffington Post and for the Times of Israel, and a public figure Facebook page with over 53,000 likes, he's the author of 12 books and over 250 articles, most recently Renewing the Process of Creation, a Jewish Integration of Science and Spirit. Rabbi Artson has been a teacher and mentor to me personally for many years now, and he's a longtime friend of Adat Shalom. It's my honor and pleasure to welcome Rabbi Artson as our inaugural Chaim Saba, Alvin and Violet Harris Scholar in Residence.
Thank you, Rabbi. It is indeed a pleasure to be here. This community has a special place in my heart and has for quite some time, so it's always nice to be here, and it feels like a homecoming. And before I say what I'm supposed to say, I have one more thing I want to say. I don't know if you know this, but Daphna, who did an extraordinary job reading Torah this morning, came to LA before this time. She was here as a little girl when her daddy was in rabbinical school. And I have fond memories of little Daphna jumping on the trampoline in our backyard with our little kids when they were little. They're now 32. And so to see her up here reading Torah, now accompanying her husband who's in rabbinical school with a little girl of her own, just feels like the fulfillment of a messianic dream. It just feels like what a remarkable harvest to see this fine human being contributing in such a masterful way, and so nice to see her here. So, you know that there are some holidays coming up. This is a time that fills clergy with panic. This is also a time when the interest of the clergy and the lay people are very different. Should the holidays be on a weekend or a weekday? People have very different opinions based purely on their own personal benefit. And it's coming, like it or not. And during this season, our tradition gets us in the mood through a variety of things, the first of which is at the beginning of the month before, with the beginning of Elul, we start reading Psalm 27, Adonai Oriv Ishi, God is my light and my salvation. And we read that beautiful psalm, one of my favorites, because it's got hints in it of each of the holidays, of Rosh Hashanah, of Yom Kippur, of Sukkot. And it speaks about the desire of the author of the psalm to be close to God, to have a time of intimacy with the divine. And then it ends with a sentence fragment, had it not been for God, and then it just kind of stops there. So that open-endedness is meant to invite us into the holidays, into a time of introspection and honesty, a time where we quiet the din of the outside world to really reflect on what's going on within. It's been, I don't need to tell you, a really tough year. It's actually been a really tough several years. It's been tough to be an American. It's been tough to be a Jew. It's been tough to be a lover of Israel. People are in a state of constant rage and anxiety, and everybody's reserves are depleted, and we're all taking it out on each other all the time. And so we're asked again to try to find a quiet inner space from which we can replenish ourselves. We can develop the resources to be able to be our best selves, especially in such a challenging time. Years ago, I had a friend who was a therapist, and if you asked her how she was doing, she would say, "Many things are excellent." Perfect answer, isn't it? Because it doesn't mean you're lying about all the garbage that's flying around. It just means you're choosing not to focus on it. And I think that's our task at this season. Many things are excellent, some things less so. Can we center the excellence and give us the capacity to then respond to the stuff that's less excellent? The highlight of the psalm is a remarkable line where the psalmist reveals math as bad as my own. Achad sha'alti me'et Adonai. I ask only one thing of God, and then he goes on to say two things. All right, so the one thing is shivti b'veit Adonai, to dwell in God's house, ulevaker b'hechalo, and to visit God's holy place. One thing that's two things. I want to dwell and I want to visit. And I think that one of the reasons we read this psalm these days is that neatly describes the Jewish people. There are those who dwell in God's house, and there are those who are about to come for a visit. And it's an interesting thing, not just at this congregation, but congregations all around the world. They will fill up with Jews who are part of their annual pilgrimage trip to the synagogue. And we always do so well with them that by the end of Yom Kippur, they're full, and we won't see them for another year. Now, there are a couple ways you can think about that, and I want to offer you what I'd like us to try for this year. You all are the dwellers in God's house. You come week after week. You come whether there's a speaker or not. You're reliable and present. You know when you're supposed to stand. You know when you're supposed to bow. You know when you're supposed to shuffle your feet. You know all of those things. You have all the secret codes. This is very much a second home for all of us. And so it's easy to look at the people who are going to flood this room in a week, as interlopers. Who are these people who are going to not know what page we're on, and they don't know when to stand, and they don't know when to sit, and they don't know when to shuffle backwards and forwards? They don't know any of it, and they don't know the melodies. And they look very uncomfortable because they are. And so I want to turn our perspective. Can you imagine the depth of loyalty and courage it takes to expose yourself to multiple hours of a language you don't understand, rituals no one's explained to you? You're convinced you're the only one in the room who doesn't know the secret handshake. And yet they come anyway, in what has to be one of the greatest acts of loyalty to the Jewish people. They come, they're bored, they shuffle back and forth, they don't know what's coming next or when it's going to end. And they show up anyway. Isn't that astonishing? Don't we owe this people a welcome? Shouldn't we be telling them how grateful we are that they're standing with us for these days, that for a couple days a year, they remember grandparents or parents or childhood experiences or a neighbor. They remember that this is their place after all. And they're about to come back. Those who dwell in God's house have a special obligation to welcome the visitors and to make the visitors feel at home and welcome. Many of you know I have a son, Jacob, who is autistic, and one of his special powers is Jacob never forgets a smile. If you smiled at my son 25 years ago, he remembers that. And it turns out I don't think that's a special power unique to him. I bet I'm not the only one in this room who recalls every time I was snubbed or made to feel uncomfortable. Every time someone looked at me as though I didn't belong. I have a mental catalog of every single such incident, and it takes nothing but stubbing my toe on another such incident to open up the book with all of them available. What if we decide as a community that this year, nobody is going to enter this building and not feel loved and appreciated and welcomed? And that's a job that belongs to all of us, not just to these people. In fact, they can't do it. By the time one of you has made someone feel unwelcomed, and they walk out hurt and crushed, and then they'll write a letter to the clergy blaming them for that. But they didn't even know about it. So how about we make some promises to ourselves? This year, if somebody is making what you think of as inappropriate noises, you're going to put on a smile. If you have to turn and look at them, you're going to look with a smile. Wouldn't that be nice? And if someone sits next to you or near you and they look like they don't know what's going on, how about you adopt them for the rest of that service? You share with them what page we're on or what this means to you or why this is so special, so that they walk out of here feeling like they have a buddy. How about if you see someone new and you're hosting a meal for the holiday, you ask them if they have somewhere to go and would they like to eat with you? Can you imagine how pleased God would be to know that whenever God's children come together, we take care of each other, we love each other, we welcome each other? One thing I ask of God: to dwell in God's house. And because we dwell in that house, we have the emotional wherewithal, the spiritual richness to reach out to our brothers and sisters who may feel more tenuous, more distant, trying to get over that distance. Can we welcome them home? Shabbat Shalom.